Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Wendy De Rosa, and I'm here doing a Facebook Live on hypervigilance, how hypervigilance and oversensitivity forms in the body or in life, in life experience. And so a couple things just to say in leading into this is that, for one, definitely it's a big conversation right now, and people are certainly looking for teachings and deeper information and guidance on how to be in the world as an empathic or sensitive or intuitive being. And it's huge. And I know that there's lots of resources out there, and it's certainly, we're getting a lot of questions coming into the School of Intuitive Studies. Also, I'm going to be teaching a 4-month program starting a couple weeks from now with the Shift Network, and I'll post that link below. Specifically, it's an advanced empath training. So if you're someone who does feel like you absorb the energy of the world around you and would like to understand more about what it means to be an empath really, and also to go into a deep dive of energy clearing that keeps us empaths from absorbing, or keeps empaths in the pattern of absorbing energy, this would be a fantastic program for you, and I'll post the information below on that. So I would like to just take a little bit of a piece even out of what I'll be talking about in that program, and hone in on something that comes up a lot for people, and it's this concept of oversensitivity. Sometimes it's being overly empathic or being hyper-vigilant. And what happens here is that as you're evolving, as we're all evolving, as the world is certainly amping up, and there's a lot happening on the frequency level on the planet, where also consciousness is arising. There's also tremendous shadow on the planet, and there are also light beings, people who are here on this earth to contribute to greater consciousness, and perhaps even have a gift in themselves to offer or bring out of hiding inside themselves and into the world. And many of those people happen to be sensitive or in-tuned, and healers deeply within, and maybe not realizing it. Healers can look a lot of different ways for different people. It doesn't have to be a healer doing healings for others, but just being able to transmit a frequency into this world is an aspect of contributing to the greater good, the greater consciousness. So this is all happening. If you're overwhelmed, if you're tired, if you're getting run down, if the world's moving too fast, if you're having symptoms of digestive issues and headaches and migraines and all these different things, this is happening. There is energetic absorbing going on, and energetic infiltration happening. But I'd like to hone in on this piece about the oversensitivity and hypervigilance. And I know in the spiritual growth world, there's this concept of going, evolving spiritually higher up and evolving in higher realms of consciousness. And this is great. It is an aspect of spiritual growth. But from an energetic absorption level, all the work that is required or necessary for grounding and for boundaries energetically is all related to the root chakra. It's actually not in the upper body at all. I mean, the upper body is symptomatic, but the root of what's happening for people who are empathic, or people who are overly sensitive, or getting, psychic transmission and different things happening in the upper body, is actually related to what's going on in the root chakra. So our root chakra is our primary power center for bonding to trust and safety and connection to this earth. And it also holds a tremendous amount of our hardwiring between the ages of 0 to 7 years old. So in that time period, 0 to 7, we're developing, we're absorbing on a cellular level. We're absorbing non-verbally. We're taking this energy, whatever we're absorbing in the world around us comes into our digestive system. It forms how we digest food, how we think about food, how we think about people around us, what's going on. Hi, Angela. It's going on around us. And in here, this root chakra formation in the lower half of the body carries our primary bonding to trust, to safety, and to love. But here's what happens in the root chakra area of the body where we start to make this shift in our system, in our energetic system around why we can hold boundaries energetically and why we can't. Here's what happens is that on the energetic level, the root chakra, again, this primary rooted, bonded, power center for stability and trust and contact to the earth, its job is to help us feel a sense of safety and trust and belonging. And that trust is in the earth and in humanity. It's also in being connected to ourselves. And it's also in this sense of I, as a spirit who has entered into this body, can now ground in and connect on the root chakra level. I can feel my sense of belonging and safety here, right now, in this family of origin that I'm born into. Root chakra is our tribal bonds. It's the belief systems we have learned to abide by on a nonverbal level. So if I'm a child and I'm coming into an environment where I don't feel safe, or I come into an environment where there are parents or people, the care providers, the adults in the situation are projecting a lot of emotions. They're not necessarily holding appropriate boundaries, and there's a lot that's getting projected left and right and all over the place. And then here I am, this sensitive child, and most children, 99% of us as babies, almost all of us really are sensitive. We're sensitive. The first sense that develops in the womb is that empathic feeling sense. Because, we're in the womb, we can't see with our eyes, we can't hear. Primarily, we're getting everything through the sensory body. So sensing is normal. That's an aspect of our natural, one of our 5, 6, 7 senses. So here we are now, we're marinating in an environment where I'm getting it on a nonverbal level that it's not okay for me to completely relax my nervous system and feel safe and ground. I have to stay in some level of alert. I have to stay in this sense of I've got to be aware of what everybody's doing around me because it's either fast or it's quick or it's out of the blue or it's spontaneous. My little nervous system is now on hyper alert. And this is the point at which a child or an empathic adult at an early age shifted from sensitive and aware and probably empathic, but we'll use the word sensitive at that age, to hypervigilant. Once we make that shift into hypervigilance to where I can't let my nervous system decompress, I can't relax, I can't settle in. At this point, my survival instincts, my coping mechanisms are now dependent on me being in a hypervigilant state, a state of awareness. Well, what happens in the energetic system is that my root chakra at that point contracts. And my root chakra at the tailbone, the safety, survival, sense of trust, receiving myself, relaxing, all of that contracts. And now I am operating from deep, low-lying, hardwired fear in the root chakra. It's actually not safe for me to be me, for me to relax into my system, for me to feel safe, for me to, whatever, just feel like I'm going to come out of fight or flight or anxiety. No, at this point, my nervous system is wired to help me survive in my environment. So on an energetic level, when the root chakra contracts, the spirit starts to sit a little higher in the body. And our system will do this beautiful compensation. If a chakra has a closing, or a chakra is somehow impacted in some way, the other power centers are going to compensate for that. So the root chakra contracts. At that point, my spirit sits higher in my body, and now I have an elevated state of being up in the upper chakras. And the beautiful compensation of that is I can develop, I'll use first person as an example, I'll develop in my third eye, I'll develop in my throat, I'll develop in my heart, I'll just stay higher up in the body. In other words, I'll stay in my mind, I'll stay in the head. Or for some who might be more, visually intuitive, clairvoyant, the visions will just get more intense, or the dreams will get more vivid. There'll just be an acceleration of prana in the upper body because the root chakra is essentially impaired at that point. It's contracted. So this is where this sensitivity, everyone's sensitive, but when we start when the root chakra contracts, we move into hyper-vigilance as a coping mechanism, and that becomes hardwired in the system. And at that point, where we move into over-sensitivity means here's my boundaries, and energy's crossing into it. I'm no longer sensing and feeling, now the energy has crossed into me. That's different than saying I'm sensitive. It's now overly sensitive. I'm absorbing. That absorbance happens when the root chakra is contracted. It's when I can't unfurl, or when I haven't been able to, we can, but I haven't been able to, or been taught, or given that reprieve in my nervous system to unfurl at the root chakra. At that point, I am now, my energy's lifted high up, and my boundaries are impaired. I can't hold a boundary, because to the spirit, to have a strong auric field around us, we actually do need to be plugged into the earth. We need to have that earth frequency, that earth connection through the lower body. So oversensitivity, where energy is coming into the body, means that I've disconnected from my root chakra. I'm living higher up in my body, and I am now cording to the world around me. I'm operating from my solar plexus. So let me back up to say this. When the root chakra contracts, the solar plexus blows open. And the reason for that is that the solar plexus has a job, and its job is to help us navigate our surroundings, to figure out how to develop self, or how for self to be, how the ego can be developed, and how we need our ego in the world, or how we use our ego in the world. So we develop our identity based on what we're experiencing in our surroundings. So this solar plexus is essentially like a honing device, or it's a navigation system. And it also is how we manifest our true self into the world. It's our fire, it's our guts, it's our strength, it's our courage, it's our will. But here, what will happen is that if I'm not grounded into self on the root chakra level, my solar plexus now is looking for people to ground into. And it's looking for energy to ground into, and work to ground into, and everything else to ground into. Because the deeper part of me, at the young childhood consciousness level, doesn't know that it's okay to be safe in the body. It's okay to be received. It's okay for you to be you. And so this oversensitivity is this relationship in the body to where the root chakra contracts, the system lifts up to go into hypervigilance, the solar plexus blows open, and now I am absorbing everything that's going on around me. I don't have enough boundaries in the lower chakras to help maintain a center of self. Empathic intuition and oversensitivity relates to the second and third chakras. It actually, basically, if you're not familiar with chakras, the second chakra is in the pelvis, the third is in the solar plexus region between the navel and the diaphragm. Essentially below the waistline, below the diaphragm, all the energy that we are connected to or not connected to in that area of the body determines how we're holding our boundaries in the world. So all of this is to say that this is the energetic actions that are happening in the body. Now, what do you do about this? How do you shift it? How do you unfurl the root chakra? How do you start to clear some of this deeper hardwired patterning in the body so that you can start grounding and embodying yourself? Part of this is deep healing work. It really is. I mean, you may have a therapist you work with or healers you work with, but it is about going into the subconscious state. So through guided imagery, guided healing into the root chakra area of the body and starting to shift the energy that's being held in these lower three chakras. Essentially, we're reparenting the inner child in these areas, these lower power centers of the body. Now, this is what I'm going to be doing in the course that starts with the Shift Network in a couple of weeks. It starts on September 12th. And if you are empathic, if you are taking on the energy of others, if you are absorbing, if you're intuitive and you know it, and you're wanting to develop more of your boundaries and your sense of self, I will tell you that absolutely 100% deep healing is going to be a part of that. Because it's not even, it is about, clearing yourself to be of service in the world, but it's also that the healing journey, when we go in to the subconscious and we start to shift energy held in the lower body, we're essentially walking into doors, closed rooms in the temple of our being that we have not occupied. And part of the healing process of going in deeply and subconsciously clearing out energy and starting to sit more powerfully in that area of the body is that we're actually unearthing power that's untapped in the body. There's power in the first chakra. There's power in the second. There's power in the third. These are powerful places in the body, but we have been very, very wounded in those areas of the body. And I know that's a big generalization, but the feminine has been wounded through time. We have operated under low-lying subconscious fear in the media, in politics, in press. It's in the ether. We've been raised with certain parenting during times of our existence in our life where kids might not, we might not have been nurtured or gotten what we needed. And so there is a deep going into shifting and reparenting the energy in the lower body so the spirit knows how to sit more deeply inside self. And so if you're interested in joining the course, I highly recommend it. Again, it starts September 12th, and I'll post the link in the notes below. You are also more than welcome to always go to my website, schoolofintuitivestudies.com, and there are courses also available for you there. And I'm going to be doing a few more Facebook Lives in this next coming week, a couple weeks actually, to talk a little bit more about these energetic boundary type questions that come in quite a bit through the School of Intuitive Studies. So this is usually the best way to respond to the question so that others who have the same question can hear the answers. So many blessings to you, lots of love, and feel free to visit my website, schoolofintuitivestudies.com. I will also post below the link for the Shift Network course. Lots of love, and I look forward to connecting soon.